Hello there, chat. Hello there, people listening to us. If you are not on Twitch but on YouTube, we are Vampire the Masquerade people. And we gather in our little Vampire the Masquerade houses, in front of our little Vampire the Masquerade cameras and microphones, to talk about Vampire the Masquerade, because that's our whole life, basically.
Basically, yeah. At this point, it is slowly creeping into everything else.
Oh my god. So today,
how are you guys doing? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So maybe today I'll take over to do the introductions, and we will start with Mr. Jersh. What's up, Mr. Jersh?
Hello. I'm trying to get my own stream to work for some reason. Not, but hi, I'm Josh. I run a YouTube channel called Strange Adventures, which is all about role-playing and vampires. And I have, as most people here, been kind of lapping up all of the Cult of the Blood God stuff recently. That's my new jam, making videos about that.
What about you, Mr. Primogen?
Mr. Primogen. Thank you. I'm Chris, the Primogen. I have a lore video channel on YouTube, and I do videos every week, but it's been getting a little bit too much lately. I've been posting stuff every now and then. I am super excited about Cult of the Blood Gods as well. I will actually be running a game set in Chicago, but using some elements from this book next week with two people present here who will be playing, called Chicago Stories. And it's going to be on my channel on Tuesday. But I'm super excited to be here, and I have all my Vampire the Masquerade stuff around. So.
And I can't wait to actually hear this campaign that you guys are going to do. I'm so sorry I can't participate in it, but I can't wait to see it.
Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
And Hadi, hello.
Hello, I'm Hadi. I make Vampire Masquerade lore videos every Masquerade Monday. I do Let's Plays, and yeah, I love Vampire. It's like my absolute favorite thing. It's has consumed my whole everything. And I love it. I'm so excited to talk about Cults of the Blood Gods. Super excited.
So as you guys probably are going to take from these little introductions, we're going to talk about Cults of the Blood Gods today. And I'm Outstar. I'm still a little bit sick. My voice is still a little bit dead. I will hope my best not to cough too much during this stream. But yeah, we're going to talk about Cults, which in my personal opinion is one of the best Vampire the Masquerade books I've read in a long, long time. So I'm very happy that it is going to be out. It is still on Kickstarter, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep, I think it's going to be 5 more days.
Yeah,
5 more days. Okay, so you guys can still, if you think after our little podcast in here that this is something up to your interest, you can still back it and help it out. Although it did surpass its goal 3 times already, I believe. Or maybe 4.
Yeah, it's $127,000, almost 128.
So it's 4 times more than they wanted to have, because I think they wanted to have 30K at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
30K. Yes, it's over 4 times. And if they hit 130,000, they're going to actually give more money to the creative team, which I think is a super good goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is absolutely great. So I'm going to pass this to Primogen, Mr. Primogen, who is our wonderful leader who was our wonderful leader in the previous episode.
But yeah, we talked a little bit about how we're gonna schedule this episode, and we're basically gonna go through everything that's been released in the Cults of the Blood God book or manuscript right now. If you don't know, if you help kickstart the game, you will actually receive chapters from the book in their manuscript form. So they're still, they could be changed, things could be moved around, but it's Onyx Path standard procedure right now that you get to give input on these books. And there's about 7 chapters out, and it's everything from Methuselah cults to the Hekata to making your own cult, stuff like that. It's a lot of different content. And I think we're going to basically start out about talking, I guess we could start talking about cults in general in Vampire and like how that's becoming a new thing, because that was never really a huge element in the previous editions of the game. Like there would be some stuff, but mostly like the followers of Set obviously were cultish in their way, and there would be parts of the Giovanni that could maybe be cultish, but now this is like a deep dive into that aspect of their culture. So super excited about that.
Actually, I want to interject one thing.
Oh, yeah,
It's
sure.
also, I have to admit, I haven't read the Dark Ages in a long while, but I do remember that Dark Ages actually did have a lot of these cultish
Oh, yeah, for sure.
themes in there. And I really like the fact how Cult of the Blood Gods does a lot of tributes to Dark Ages book, with the Nephilim, for example, with the Canaanite heresy. There's so many things which are taken from these old good times. And I do believe that, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people had with the V5 is the new system, which seems to cut a lot of these old parts away, because suddenly we cannot be big, powerful vampires. We are mostly just, higher generation vampires, and there are tons of thin bloods in there. And what is going on? Where is my old good Vampire the Masquerade? And when I opened Cult of the Blood Gods, I was like, it's here. That's what we're talking about. This is actually it is screaming Dark Ages for me. It is screaming all this all good stuff, but brought to the new perspective, which is, I think, super cool.
I agree. Oh, sorry, Josh.
No, I was going to say I agree as well, because the one of the most interesting parts of the lore to me was the fact that Mithras just took over England and had huge influence in that part of the world, in Europe, and basically did it and maintained it through inducting people into cults. And I, aside from watching I guess kind of cheesy documentaries about various cults, like the people who wore red in America, I can't remember what they were called, but like how those different cults worked in real life, it doesn't really translate into a particularly easy to use and, I guess, storify element. But this, I think, book really helps you with that. It's got very, very detailed like strata for where you start in a cult and where you end up if you're lucky.
Yeah, for sure. And to build on what Outstar was saying about like previous content, this is really like you're saying, it's filling out a niche of content that was sorely lacking. I never played a lot of the Dark Ages of Vampire, but I do know that like I've always been sort of fascinated with the Canaanite heresies and the Bahari and like the worship of Lilith. And I think the Book of Nod was very intriguing for me when I read it the first time. But obviously, I was lacking this key to the puzzle. And I feel like Matthew Dawkins and his team is really like, okay, let's bring in the aspect of playing older Kindred as well. And I personally really like the Trinity that ruled Constantinople. Like you were mentioning the Nephilim. Is that what they're called?
Yeah. The Nephilim are the ones that were back in the days known as the vampires who go on the path of Archangel.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Michael.
Michael. Yeah.
So it's really, for me, this is a lot of new territory. So I'm still like trying to find my way, but it makes so much sense that someone who is undead suddenly has their whole worldview turned upside down. Like, yeah, I'm a rational being. Science can explain everything, and suddenly you're undead, and you can't really explain it with science. People are trying. You have Net Church, for example, doing his experiments, the Malkavian. So you go like, all right, so what's the deal with this? And then you meet all these really ancient vampires like Helena from Chicago, or Mithras, or what's the guy in DC? Marcus
Vitel.
Marcus Vitel.
We talked about him in last stream too.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, he keeps popping up, Marcus Vitel. And you go like, okay, this is as close to God as we can get. Yeah, I think I literally said exactly this last time we were going. Yeah, it's just such a great aspect of role playing for me. Sorry, Hadi, I've been talking over you. So.
No, you're not talking over me. I would just echo things that you guys have already said. The writing is incredibly impressive. It's probably I've read the V5, the Camarilla, the Anarch. I haven't read Chicago by Night because I don't want to, because we're going to be playing it. But it's incredibly impressive writing. It's very macabre. It's very dark, but it's also very purposeful in the way that it's written, which I really, really appreciate. And I think before reading it, I had sort of the same idea as Prim. We're like, why a vampire and cults and religion? But you start reading it, the little letters in the beginning, and you're like, oh, I totally get it.
It makes sense, right?
Totally join one of those cults. Totally get it.
What's the best? Yeah. One of the best parts of the book for me is actually those fiction bits. I loved every single piece of them, and there are so many various kinds of them. As much as I do believe that the other books, especially Camarilla book, is filled with a lot of those Inquisition texts, like the reports of the Inquisitions, which are interesting, but they are the majority of the fiction which are in his books. And of course, Camarilla book also has the Victoria Ash talking about romancing different clans, which was one of the funniest parts of the book. But
I love her.
But Codes of the Blood Gods has so many content of that, and there's so much interesting stuff, and also has one of the most interesting Inquisition bits, in my opinion. There was one bit I remember about the zoo, I think, where one vampire was doing rituals with animals.
Subject 23.
And they were actually interrogating him, and he didn't know what to answer. And it was really, really awesome. So I love these fiction bits. Do you guys have any favorites that you remember from the book?
Of the fictional stuff?
Yeah.
I think I really like the minor cult, the Cleopatrans. Cleopatrans? I would say Cleopatrans. Because it's like Nosferatu, it's like a Nosferatu cult. It's very small, but it's like they bedeck themselves with jewelry and gold, and like they try to accentuate like beauty, not by removing their curse, because that never works. Like Simish can't do it, Thaumaturgy can't do it. But they like wear beautiful clothes and like cover their faces in like jewelry and stuff like that. I think it's a really interesting. I don't know if I would call it a cult. I haven't read enough about it, but apparently they were really powerful at one time, but they've kind of been going downhill lately.
I have a question. Yeah, sorry, I have a question. I might have misread this. Like I said, I've been trying to read it quickly. The cult of or Nephilim, the beauty cult.
Yeah.
Did I misunderstand? Did I read something in that about Nosferatu seeking out that cult for the purpose of trying to not remove their curse but lessen it? Or did I misread that?
No, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, Josh, maybe you wanna talk about that, because I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the book.
Oh yeah.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
do it.
God, it's been a few weeks since I read it, because it was one of the first things I read when I joined the Kickstarter. So, as far as I understand, Michael was a Methuselah, or just a very old vampire who basically got the idea in his head that he was an angel or divine in some sense, and a lot of people bought into that because Toreador. And there, I think, is in fact a lore sheet now that includes his lineage, which is all extremely beautiful people, and people that, to the extreme, try and find beauty in their lives, in their physical selves, and in some cases try and expunge beauty or ugly things from the world. So their blood is so powerful to that effect that, like Huddy said, if Nosferatu is inducted into the mysteries of that particular cult, eventually they will be able to use that blood and those powers to kind of reduce the ugly effect of their curse, which they kind of tend to become part of the lower tiers of that I guess pyramid scheme. But
I mean, they're all pretty much pyramid schemes.
Yeah, they are. All these schools are.
Yeah. There is one fictional letter that literally is just some guy raging about how all of these cults and all these, there's just a bunch of pyramid schemes.
Yeah, there is
literally one of the letters.
Yeah, I love it.
I love the various perspectives that the fiction shows. And if we're actually talking about the film, I think I just pulled something from the Dark Ages book, which is the path of the Archangel itself. And I reminded myself of how it looked like, the hierarchy of sin for that path. So for those of you guys who haven't played the previous versions of Vampire the Masquerade, we didn't have only humanity back in the days. We also had paths. So vampires didn't exactly have to go for the path of humanity if they wanted to, remain away from their beast and just, regular behaving vampires. They could take various paths, which were kind of like morale codes for themselves. And Path of the Archangel was one of them, which was very much tied with the cult of Nephilim and Michael the Archangel. And what it was is that the best of the Nephilim wouldn't indulge in any temptation. But when it comes to lower sins, it was going one day without performing any creative work. So they were the cult of artists, and they would always do some kind of a creative work. Turning away from those who need inspiration, refusing to make a minor sacrifice, leaving fellow Toreador to languish unbaptized. So that's interesting. If you meet another Toreador, you have to convert them to the cult of Nephilim, because that's what they are born to do, embraced to do. Then going 1 week without performing any creative work, that's a higher sin. Indulging in temptations of the flesh, which is kind of funny because Toreadors are very much often connected with those sexual things, and actually in the film would say that these earthly pleasures are something that we are not made of. We are made to be greater than that. We are made to create and do beautiful things, and this is not exactly a thing. If you want a carnal cult, if you want a cult of flesh, then go to Bahari or to some of the other ones, but Nephilim is definitely not one of them.
I mean, it's described like a large hedonistic, sex-crazed cult full of beautiful people requires very little selling to most.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, that's like the bottom tier of the cult. Yeah, the sex-crazed people. It's a cool cult, and I think it's also very interesting that it connects to the greater lore, because like in Beckett's Jihad Diary, you have like I don't know if it happened during that time or earlier, because of Sasha Vikos was carrying the Drakon within themselves. Sorry, and Michael removed that because Michael possessed Black Marie, I think her name is. No, Black Marie diablerized Michael, and he possessed, like it's super convoluted. But in all of this, like this, you can connect the Nephilim to Beckett's Jihad Diary, a very good book that I can.
In general, Sasha Vikos' lore is very complicated and very, very huge. And I kind of don't want to go into details because it always reminds me of that one book. That book. You know which one?
Yeah, I know exactly which book you mean.
Hadi, Josh, do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
The one erotic novel.
There was one erotic novel with Sasha Vikos as one of the main characters. And
Black Dog.
Yes, when you say her name, that I do know. I have heard that connection.
It was absolutely disgusting and unneeded.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should maybe, because we started with like middle of the book, the Nephilim, which is kind of interesting because I think it's one of the most OP things in the whole book, because Nephilim can basically affect Nosferatu's curse. Which not even Tzimisce could do. Vicissitude as a discipline was always described as if you use it to try to fix Nosferatu, it will, like, after the next day when they wake up, it will just all wash away. And so it's very powerful that although you cannot make them beautiful, you can make them less ugly. I think it's a huge thing and one of the most powerful things in the book itself. But going back to the beginning, I feel like we should talk about why exactly vampires need religion, because that's the core of the whole book, and that's the very beginning. Like, if you are a person who wants to get this book, I think you would ask yourself this question as well. Why, me as an undead great creature, why do I need to believe in something, right? So what do you guys think about it? Hadi. Yeah.
Me? Oh, I was like, Hadi, you go first.
Well, my answer might be long.
Yeah, no, Hadi, go first.
Yeah. You go first.
Okay, well, I will just say this briefly. As a person who has a background who comes from a cult, I can definitely understand whether you're a mortal or a vampire. The allure of having something to believe in, and having not just something to believe in, but somebody to speak for you, to think for you, to promise you things that maybe deep down you know they can't give you, but just the promise of it is extraordinarily powerful, and it's very, very alluring. Especially if you are, let's use particular examples, especially if you are, let's say, a thin blood, and you're cast into this world where you're a vampire, but you're also sort of not a vampire. You know, you're not a mortal anymore either, and you want a purpose and you want to find something. That is the perfect candidate for just about any type of cult on any spectrum. Let's say you're an Ancilla, you're a much older vampire. Could you imagine so many decades of just milling about And, you know, what's your purpose? Could you imagine not having any real purpose anymore, because everything, the machinations have been over for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
Certainly you would gravitate towards some Methuselah, some mystical power that would give you that purpose. It totally makes sense. Upon reading the first few pages of the book, I'm like, well, that totally makes sense, as much as it does for humans.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I was going to say, from, I guess, an older perspective, having a cult is a very interesting prospect, because it's a kind of self-perpetuating machine of people that will do things for you. Whether they truly believe or not, eventually they will be trusted and inducted, and I guess brainwashed to some effect to do evil. And I guess even if they, and that you will create all these kind of barriers. And there's a lot of things, because there's a part to this book which is you can actually build your own cult, which I quite like the idea of. You can build a whole thing around something you believe in, and then from the perspective of people lower down on that tier list, it is, I guess, something to kind of keep you busy. Like there's a structure to the rituals, whether they're like magic or not. It slowly kind of seeps into your day-to-day life. And role play wise, I think it's really nice that in the book they've provided for you what's it called, convictions, right? And these convictions are, I guess, the core beliefs of the cult, or I guess your own take on them. And I guess your own take on them is disencouraged, because you're probably going to get kicked out. There's a lot of fun role play opportunities that a cult provides. And I have seen religious characters in the past, but they have a much looser connection to their faith.
What about you, Primogen?
I think that it's because with the convictions that Josh mentioned, the roads, or the no, wait, they're not called roads. The paths. They've sort of been falling to the wayside. Like in older editions of Vampire, if you weren't following humanity, you could have an alternative set of morals. And I've always been very interested in those. So I kind of see cults and like vampire religions sort of as another way of justifying your entire existence. Like at some point, you're going to have to come face to face with the fact that you're not human. You're a parasite. You feed off of humans. You have powers different from humans, and some other supernatural creatures consider you by your very nature evil. And I mean, it is kind of an evil thing. Like objectively, you can be a good person, but still, because you're a vampire, you're gonna have to struggle with being a good person. So I think for a lot of vampires, meeting other vampires who are more convinced in their conviction, like, oh yeah, this is fine, we're just a different step in human evolution, or this is a packaged idea of how things are. It's comforting in a way that, like Hadi said, normal human religion would be that you don't need to search for the answer anymore. You can justify your existence by saying, yeah, I was chosen, I was handpicked by Mithras to be his herald. It's fine. And I think that's such a human thing, ironically enough, to want to be part of that. And I think that the Camarilla's hardline stance, it doesn't work anymore. And I like that the Camarilla's like, shit, we're losing control over vampires because we're approaching Gehenna. We can't deny the antediluvians anymore. Let's just spin this so we can have our own, we can take control back. So obviously there's some rather sinister motivations behind this as well.
Yeah, I would only add, because you guys summed it up perfectly and said about sense of belonging, of course, and sense of meaning of life or unlife, actually. And of course, what Josh mentioned, and actual profits, because having your own cult or belonging to a cult can end up with very big profits to you. I want to just add a little bit more about the sense of belonging, because I think it's a very primal need that we all have, no matter whether we are alive or unalive. And in the undead, you might have a sense of belonging to a sect, but sects themselves are huge enough to have tons of conflicts within, and tons of people trying to fight for the dominance, or people that you may not agree with. So sects themselves don't seem to be that much of a great thing to belong to. It's like a nation, you don't really feel that much like every single person from your nationality, right? So I would say that the sect itself is a little bit too big to fulfill this need, while the clans are just the same. There are so many different vampires in each clan, and Hecata is actually one of the best examples of inner wars within a single clan, in which everyone tries to kill each other. And the book gives you tools for that, about which we're going to talk about later. But one thing I want to add about the whole paths and thing, it's kind of funny because people were criticizing V5 a lot because of the fact how paths are gone now and we only have humanity, right? But I think what a lot of people are not understanding in the mechanics per se, because a lot of people are not using convictions right, is by the use of convictions, you can actually craft your own paths per se. Because you can actually have convictions which are altering the regular means of humanity. So you can have a conviction which will allow you to kill people if they deserve that, for example. And this is not going to cause you stains. You are not going to lose your humanity if you're going to kill people according to that conviction. So I think it actually adds a lot of opportunities for us to craft our own paths, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
As a storyteller, the first time I started playing V5 a lot, I was thinking of conviction specifically as a way to take humanity from my players. But the more and more I play it, I realize they are meant to be roleplay prompts for the players to play into instead of play against.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you provide storytelling opportunities for them to like maybe contradict it, but like I found most of the time people are totally cool with doing evil things just to go along with their convictions, because that's, I guess, what they created their character for, right?
Yeah.
So so having more of those conviction prompts, which I think there are some decent ones in the core book, but just having a whole swathe more is a really, really great.
Yeah, as a storyteller, I would really appreciate having a lot more examples of conviction to give to my players, because I'm finding that I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it makes it easier to customize your character. Like, you get rid of the whole nature demeanor aspect of it. You get, of course, your ambition and your desires. But I think it's very hard to keep track of each individual player's convictions. Well, not very hard, but it adds a layer of, like, it depends on how well the group works together, I guess. Like in the ideal game, a player would keep track on their own convictions. But if you have a new player who's not entirely sure how it works, it's something that the player and the storyteller should definitely try to work together to craft. Keep getting sunlight in my face, which I should be happy about.
That hurts.
I should be happy about it, living in Sweden. But it's definitely an interesting concept. But I think there should be an alternative for like new players. I guess with the convictions that come with the game, you have that. But like, yeah, if you're new, you don't know what you're doing, here's your standard package of newly embraced convictions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like one of the things that I would like to be reworked to give more opportunities is the touchstone part. Because touchstones, as far as I really like them as far as they are now, and I feel like they are very useful, and they do work in the general meaning of the World of Darkness. So a lot of people who are not into them say that we don't really need to have humans that we relate to, because why would we? We are, undead creatures of the night. But I think they work, but I would add some more opportunities. For example, I do believe in the original iteration of the V5 core book, ghouls couldn't be touchstones. Later on, it was added, I believe. So ghouls can be touchstones right now, but other vampires cannot be touchstones. Animals cannot be touchstones as well, I think. And I believe that we should have opportunities to, for example, make more human vampires than us a touchstone. So if we know a vampire who is humanity 8 or humanity 9, that vampire can be our touchstone, and if they regress in humanity, we actually lose that touchstone and stain. I think that would be really interesting to kind of like take an example of a better vampire, you know, like Salubri looking forward to Solot, right, and trying to be just like Solot while trying their best to maintain their humanity. I think it would be really, really cool. But yeah, we need to wait probably for more
Player's handbook, yeah.
For more handbooks. Actually, there's going to probably be Sabbat tackled eventually in V5, so maybe that will be a good occasion to have this.
Oh yeah, that would be nice, just to throw in like a revised stupid son. But my face is just turning bright orange here. I agree that touchstones is a finicky thing. Like someone in the chat was just saying that touchstones is a little bit unnecessary. I don't agree.
Yeah, me neither. I think they're unnecessary. Yeah.
Because it is a game about losing touch with humanity, and touchstones is something they implemented in Chronicles of Darkness, I begin. At least in Changeling the Lost, they have that as a sort of means to regaining your willpower, and it kind of got reworked into V5. But I feel like if it really depends on what kind of game you want to play, but if you don't have any touchstones, then like what's to remind you of what you've lost? What's to remind you of who you were? Maybe you don't want to be reminded about that, but then the kind of path down the humanity slide is going to go pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. I do agree. I just really hope that we would have more chances to craft touchstones from other sources. So not only just humans, because I'm just imagining Andrei from Bloodlines. Imagine this Sabbat prick. And would he really have a touchstone of a long-lost family member or a shopping clerk, that he stalks or something like that?
Exactly.
I think it would be really
designed
hard.
for Camarilla vampires and anarchs.
Yeah. I think probably when Sabbat comes in, it will be like make a touchstone that is a creepy vampire. That you look up to or something like that.
Yeah,
that's I actually never even considered that, what the touchstones will be for Sabbat vampires. That's like a really good point.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because I'm always considering taking a character that I know and trying to make a character sheet for them. And V5 doesn't provide me really with an option to, even, not considering the clan and the discipline, to craft Tzimisce Andrei. I don't really know how I would tackle this kind of a character.
No.
And
the thing is, I guess you would, as a person who does horrible things on a regular basis, very quickly start to detach from humanity, right? So I guess you would end up low humanity, and the system is kind of self-balancing, because the lower you are, the harder it is to lose it, right?
But how would you stop yourself from becoming a white? You need to have that anchor, something that keeps you there.
Maybe. Oh, sorry, Hadi, you were gonna say?
No, I was just agreeing.
Maybe the alternative system is that they're going to broaden what a touchstone is. Like if you're following a path, the touchstone can be a tenet of the path. Like that's a way to work in paths, like saying, oh yeah, one of your touchstones is this tier of the Path of Cain, or whatever you're going with. Can Sabbath have Path of Cain? They do, right?
They do, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a path of infernal, everything like that. The dark, that's the one they don't want to have, the infernal one.
I mean, although it was actually kind of funny for me, because I had to ask Matthew Dawkins about one thing in Codes of the Bloodgast I didn't understand very fully, because I didn't remember Dark Ages book, and I couldn't understand why Cainite heresy and Sabbat are natural enemies, because that was said in the book. Because I was like, okay, I'll read the Path of Cain and the Cainite heresy in general, and I see all the things that I would see in the Sabbat. So humans are just the cattle. We are great creatures of Cain, and we are supposed to rule this earth, and etc., etc. And I was like, this basically screams Sabbat to me. So why are they hating each other so much? And the answer is very much political. It's kind of like a schism in the Catholic Church. So you have Protestantism and you have Catholic religion, but they both believe in the same God per se. So kind of. So you have basically La Sombra, who are controlling Sabbat mostly, and La Sombra are also in control of the Catholic Church. And then you have Cainite heresy, who is kind of taking believers away from the Catholic Church and bringing them to themselves. So La Sombra, by default, they hate the heretics. and they are the biggest enemies, even though they believe in the similar things in general. But they hate each other because they take each other's political influence, and that's why they are so anti each other.
That's really cool that you'd have something akin to the schisms you've had in the Christian church as well. Like, yeah, there's just slight differences, but because of political reasons, you split apart. Sorry, by the way, for basically saying exactly the same thing that Josh was saying about touchstones. By the way, I was kind of just pulling down the blinds, and sorry about that. But I think I'm definitely looking forward to 2020 as far as upcoming content going on, like Vampire 5.1, as someone in the chat was saying. Also, yeah, it's hard to keep track of convictions. It was way harder to keep track of everyone's different roads in Dark Ages. Someone was also saying that in the chat. I remember because I did try to run Transylvania by night, Transylvania Chronicles. I did that for like 3 sessions. It was painful. I sat with like printouts of all the different roads. And it's like, okay, so now you're breaking against this core tenet. No, it's hard, especially if you have players who are not familiar with the game.
On the other hand, when a player creates their own moral guidance rule, they are far more likely to track it themselves. That's the other thing that I found. I get my players going, I can do this, but it'll be kind of on the edge, so I need a guide, like a ruling here. And then sometimes people are like, I've done this thing, I'm getting a stain, right? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Sure.
You tell me.
Yeah.
So it's like basically they believe in their own characters' moral codes and they try to follow them. Yeah, that's the thing. I've noticed that too. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Anyway, I think we should move on to the
of course
to the one of the most interesting topics when it comes to the book, which is the chapter about kindred religions and the chapter about what exactly to believe when you are a Cainite. And there are so many interesting cults in there. Do you guys have your favorite? Josh, I will start with you this time. If you don't want to start, we can start with someone else.
Yeah, don't start with me because I can't remember all of them.
There are a lot of them. Yeah,
I can't quite remember all of them.
Harry, do you want to start?
I'm going to pick one.
Sure, I have them all written down with my little notes when I was reading it.
So organized.
Yeah, I try to be. Well, I'm sure you guys know, and anybody who's watching might not know, but I'm very into LA by Night, and I've been having a lot of success on my channel with that. So when the very first cult that you read about in the book is the Ashfinders, right?
Yes, I love them.
And that got me very excited because in LA by Night, Jasper takes some ashes from a dead La Sombra named Rodrigo and keeps it. And they never really mention it again, but the storyteller does ask him several times, well, do you still have the ashes? Where are the ashes? But they never do anything with it. And we do know, we haven't met them, that the Duskborn, the Thin Bloods, are also living in the valley. And I would be interested to see if this, again, because Jason Carl is playing through Cult of the Blood Gods, or he is playing through it. I don't think they finished it. I could be wrong about that. I don't know if that's something they could maybe implement to use. So I thought that was really cool. And I would love to see more stuff about Thin Bloods. Of course, they're all over V5, but having their own cult was so cool. I don't know. I had so much fun reading through it and what they do and what they believe, and they turn it into a drug and they go, it's like popping Molly in the club. I don't know. It was actually really, really cool and horrifying, but really cool. That was probably my favorite one.
So Primogen, do you want to continue on that?
I was actually going to talk a little bit about Ashfinders too, mostly, but they're not actually my favorite, but I really like how they connect up to Mortius. The Tremere, yeah, because he's also like he's in Milwaukee by Night, and he's this kind of fringe nobody in the Tremere, and he mostly came to prominence because he gave the translated version of the Book of the Grave Wars to Karna, which essentially set off the whole schism of her forming her own part of the pyramid. So it's interesting that they're still using him as a character. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Church of Cain and the Cainite heresies. I don't know a lot about them because, unfortunately, this part I read so long ago, and I decided to skip it, which was stupid for me now when I was reading up. But I really like the Church of Cain's idea that vampires exist for like a divine purpose, that we're just part of the hierarchy of evil in the world, and that Earth is actually hell, and the vampires exist to dominate humans who are there. And I think it's just interesting for me. I'm not going to be too long-winded about this because, again, I didn't read up too much, but it's interesting to me to see people adopt this kind of Judeo-Christian view on it, but put their own weird twist to it because it's a little close to reality. It's a little uncomfortable, but it's also interesting because it so clearly puts belief in a higher power into like a perspective. Like, yeah, we believe in Cain. We believe he was the first vampire. We believe that a divine God punished or lifted Cain, depending on how you view it, and that basically vampires exist to cause evil because it's such an antithesis to the original idea of vampire being like suffering and not trying to do evil. And I think they're closely related to the original idea of the Sabbat, because I believe there was a lot of infernalists in the Sabbat originally, and that kind of changed in the second edition. And that like it's just plain evil, and it's appealed to me because it's also like
it's plain evil. It appealed to me.
All right. Well, when I put it that way, I guess. So, yeah, I will be an evil storyteller when I run Vampire. By the way, like I really don't. I think I'm gloves when I do that. But it's just like I like that there is a whole. I don't know what you'd call it, like a catechism or like traditions and roles and like formalized religion built on this whole concept.
The catechism.
Yeah, the catechism. Thank you. That always compelled to me, like someone sat down and made this complex hierarchy and made a system. I find that interesting in faiths, normal human faiths as well. That like they built this kind of hierarchical system and they have these very clear rules on how things are done. Like because usually, if you're not part of a religion, you're never really aware of how organized everything is, which is a little bit creepy as well when you do realize that. So I guess that would be my favorite, the Church of Cain. Again, not too read up on it, but I'm definitely going to learn more of it. And
you just have to admit that you're a poor gamer and you want those fire powers.
I mean, with the Path of Flame no longer being available, thaumaturgy. Yes, fire is good, and it's also interesting. I think was it in your video, Outstar, when you talked about was it in your video or was it during the interview with Matthew Dawkins that they were doing? I think it was Darker Days Gaming, or was it Gehenna Gaming? We're doing an interview with him when they talked about the Bahari being very plant focused, like life and growth, gardens, stuff like that, feminine power. And then you have the Church of Cain, which is fire and damnation. Yeah, masculine power, and how that contrast
patriarchy.
Yeah. And I'm obviously not liking it because it's a patriarchal religion. Not hugely a big fan. I'm not a big fan of that at all. But I like the contrast of it as well.
No, I really like the fact that basically the book gives you two possibilities. You can either go extremely feministic, like, and I'm talking third wave feminism, kill all men, which is how they're called. They're not Bahari. They're the ones that get away from Bahari.
Was it the
how they're called again?
Isn't it on the Chicago by Night?
No. They're in the Cults of the Blood Gods, and
Is it Gorgos?
Gorgos, I think. Yes, the Gorgos. And they are basically just those extremely misandrist cult. And then you have the Church of Cain, which is this very much patriarchal one. And you can basically pick whatever you want for your personal vampire and roleplay it in any way you want, which is really fun. Exactly. So Josh, do you have your favorite, or should I go next?
I do like the Bahari, as I haven't looked into some of these parts of the lore before, and at the moment I'm playing a Chicago by Night game, which includes the Blood Disco, which is a very cool section of Bahari cult. And so I've been really interested to kind of work in that plant theme and all of the really interesting rituals they have, which include feeding from like a whole mile around you and in a creepy tree ritual. They're very cool. I think my favorite, though, mostly because I'd not looked into it before, is the Church of Set, and how they are now different from the Ministry and are a cult that includes all sorts of mortals and vampires. So Probably my just pure favorite thing is the classic secret society vibe they have to them, where they're like, we will poke holes in society and see what falls out. And we're gonna do horrible things because it's for the best, it's for the greater good.
Yeah, I really like the inclusion of the Church of Set in the book in the way it is, because it actually allows you to play the old school Setite. And I think a lot of people who are playing Followers of Set or Ministry nowadays, they kind of want to pick them if they knew the Setite back in the days and they want to play the similar Setite as they are used to, right? But then, because there is this division in between Ministry and the Church of Set, you can play a Setite who is totally not a part of the Church of Set and who is totally this modern Ministry rebranded Setite. And I actually did roleplay one character like that who is right now probably somewhere in torpor, poor girl. But basically, my idea, when after the Underg book came out and the Ministry was announced, I really wanted to make a character that is going to be this new Ministry member. And what I did is I made this girl who was in Japan embraced by her sire, who was this very regular old school follower of Set, and she didn't really get this whole religious thing from him. She was like, I don't really understand that. I don't really believe that. This seems to be a big mambo jumbo. So I am fleeing the country, going to States, and I'm going to pursue my career as a DJ. And she was actually a DJ who used the Ministry's, compulsion. So basically, she tried to convert other people she tried to affect other people with her music. So her main thing was to actually change the mood of the dance floor and watch the people and change their personal behaviors with the show that she was doing. She was using like some crazy stuff, including the fog machines, which had pheromones added inside. So she wanted to basically do all these things just to affect the dance floor. And I think it was an interesting concept, which wouldn't work if she was a follower of Set per se, if she was the Church of Set person, right? Because that wouldn't really stick together. Maybe if she was also a believer, but she wasn't. And I really like the fact that now you can play a Ministry who basically is anyone. You don't really have to be religious. You don't have to be believing in anything, but you have this compulsion, you have this bane of yours that actually makes you different from other vampires. And then you can also, of course, pick the church, which makes you a classic Setite.
Yeah. I really like that they brought back the Set aspect as well. I haven't actually, again, chapter 2 of the book is the one that I unfortunately spent the least time on, which is it's the most interesting chapter in my opinion. I just didn't have time. But I really like if we're taking a step back and looking at all the independent clans, like the Followers of Set, the Giovanni, the Ravnos they haven't covered, but what's the fourth one again?
Banu Hakim.
Banu Hakim. Yeah, thank you. They've really done a lot of legwork to diversify and make these clans deeper. Because I was reading the original Player's Handbook, I think is the first one that introduced these 4 new clans. And they were so shallow when they were first made.
Yeah.
Like, not going to go into the discussion about the stereotypes if we're talking about that, but they've actually they've sat down and they've really thought about like, how do we make these more interesting for a 20
and more universal too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't have to be a Egyptian snake worshipping person who sells drugs just because you're a Ministry anymore. And honestly, that's relaxing. Like, your character is a DJ in America and still doing the whole set type thing, just more varied. And it's evolution of the game, if you can call it that. And I think a lot of people are they don't like that. I've seen a lot of people talking about how they're changing stuff that doesn't have to be changed. But if you're bringing in a whole new edition of the game, why not go the whole mile? Like, if you don't like that, you can go back and play V20 revised edition. But now they're thinking things through. They're like, what can we change that makes sense within the lore? And I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I like the whole take on trying to make clans more universal. I was actually, because I'm preparing to make a Gangrel video finally, because I've been slacking with that. And I was reading the V5 core book part on the Gangrel today, and it's one of the parts of the book which I really like when it comes to archetypes, because it really expands the view on the Gangrel when you have not only those beast-like, animal-like Gangrels or the nomads, the bikers, but you also have the storytellers, the ones that, like Beckett, for example, the one who go around the world gathering stories and spreading them around. And you also have wolves of Wall Street. You have those alpha wolves working in the corporations and controlling people with how dominating in animalistic form they are. And I really love that. On the contrary, I think there are parts of the book which really don't do a lot of good to the clans. For example, Ventrue, I believe it's a little bit stereotypical when it comes to the archetypes which Ventrue have in V5 core book. And I would love to see, maybe other books giving you different perspectives on Ventrue. That's why Anarch core book is also interesting, because it gives you the chance to make the Anarch Ventrue. But the archetypes in the core book themselves for Ventrue are really boring, and they're just the same. So I would like to see even more universality when it comes to the clans.
I think that if you want to really get into playing a clan, even in V5, I think it's always a good idea to get one of the clan books from the revised edition.
Yeah.
They have so much depth to them. Like, I know there's the Lore of the Clans book for V20, but it's nowhere near as deep as the original clan books or the revised clan books. Sorry. Yeah. Because I remember I did 2 videos on Ventrue, and at the end of it, I was like, I didn't even cover all the internal mechanisms of the clan, like the whole what is it called? There's a meme about it. Ventrue Prestige. It's called.
I know what you're talking about. The starting with D.
Yeah.
Dignitas.
Dignitas.
Yeah.
There we go.
But Dignitas. Like that's the whole thing. Like, I didn't even talk about that in my 2 videos because there's so much on Ventrue. So especially Ventrue, like you were mentioning, is a clan that you can really profit off buying the clan book as a PDF or something like that, because there's a lot more in those books. Stay away from the first edition clan books. They're not very good.
So, coming back to the topic very quickly of the favorite cults, I just wanted to add some, because my favorite parts of Vampire the Masquerade, depression, despair, and sadness. So I want to add something sad to the whole bunch. One of the most interesting cults for me is the cult of Shalem, the Shalemites. Ooh. And something that I really want to underline, which I don't think was actually mentioned that strong in the book per se, is the fact that a lot of vampires are going through various struggles in their own life. They're losing the humans that their family members, they are losing their touchstones, losing their friends, betrayers are happening, all your wonderful relationships, love, whatever you've been through, it's just all over eventually. It won't last for eternity. So you are going through a lot of hardships, suffering. And what is the perfect medicine for that? Nothingness, the abyss. It's such a sad concept that when you have a vampire who literally went through all these hardships and then gets converted to the Shalemite religion, and they are saying that in order to not suffer, you need to get rid of all of your emotions, not only the sad ones, but also the happy ones. You need to not feel at all. One human is the most that you can have contact with, have a touchstone, like literally just one. And that's enough anchor that you can have to the humanity. But all the rest of that is just you and nothingness. And the ritual of the Pit of Contemplation, where they're actually sending the believers into the abyss, which is supposed to be their highest, most wonderful thing that they are going through, is just sad. It's so sad, but I love it.
Like vampire nihilism. It's
yeah. I love that idea. I do roleplay a vampire who went through so much shit and so many bad things happened to him that I was literally thinking when I read this book that, okay, if ever a Shalamite would approach him and tell him about this religion, he would be converted in a freaking minute. so yeah, it's sad, but it's also great. And yeah, about the pit of contemplation and in general the powers. The book has a lot of super creepy powers, and maybe we should talk a little bit about that. Especially you, Mr. Fire Mage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, chapter 2 is a book that is a part of the book that I mostly haven't studied too closely. So I don't really have much to say on that topic, but I can comment if any of you more read up on it want to mention something.
Do you guys remember any creepy powers from chapter 2?
I wanted to touch on something. Who was talking about Church of Set? You, Outstar, right?
Yeah.
We're both, yeah. We're both.
Both, okay. I wanted to talk about the Heart of Darkness.
Taking your heart out?
Yeah. I was trying to think, like, I don't know. It's such a weird concept, but it totally makes sense. And I wish there was more on it because I wanted to read more about it. Like,
it's kind of like a Horcrux from Harry Potter.
I think that's an old power from Followers of Set, though. I think
it's a
level
very
5
old
discipline.
Law thing. It's like
I did
combination of vicissitude things as well, and there's all sorts of vampires that try and remove their heart or do something weird to it, right?
I was reading it. I'm just like, this seems like could go really wrong really fast.
Yeah, this version specifically, when it says it also removes your emotions, like detached, I think that's new for it. But I know even in Vampire Redemption, you have the leader of the Setites. You kill her, but you can't destroy her because she's hidden her heart somewhere.
I hate it because you have to go in and out of the freaking Setites dungeon, and there's just one time when it teleports you to her, but you have to like go for this whole empty dungeon 3 times. I think it's horrible.
again, that hasn't aged too well. It's a minor thing, but it's like the only time, one of the few times that you diabolarize and actually do that, like gain power from it. I think if you drink the blood from her heart,
there's a choice. Yeah, you can drink the blood from her heart, and you lose humanity, but you gain a lot of powers. It's kind of funny because even if you don't drink the blood from her heart, you still get Serpentis discipline for some reason. I don't know how it happens, but you get it. But yeah,
it's because Kristoff is overpowered.
Yeah, but Setites have super creepy powers in the book. For example, I think it was called Mental Maze.
Oh,
yes,
God, yeah.
The obfuscate one, right?
Yeah, it's basically when you are in a room, they can affect your brain or affect the environment. I'm not really sure which one is affected more with this power.
I think it's a brain thing.
It would have to be, wouldn't it?
Illusion.
Yeah. It could be an illusion around you, or it could be just you. I think it's obfuscate with the amalgam of dominate, right?
Yes, it is.
So it actually affects your brain. So you do not know how to get out. Even if there are doors in front of you, you wouldn't know that these doors lead outside. You would be absolutely sure, motorcycles, sorry. You would be absolutely sure that these doors are leading you deeper into the maze. So you can literally trap people inside their own houses and they wouldn't be able to get out.
Yeah, it's really creepy. And there was another one. There's a presence one that the Church of Set also has in it.
True Love's Face.
True Love's
Face. Horrifying.
Isn't it?
It is. It is kind of...
You don't even have to know who this person fancies to like take on the face, or I guess to them that you come up to them.
Is it a Setite
like
power?
Imagine your crush coming up to you and be like, "I want to drink your blood," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
That's really messed up.
There's some really, really messed up
and
things.
now I love to basically just destroy everyone's brains, but imagine a campaign in which a Setite uses True Love's face to get advantage of someone, and that someone still sees that Setite.
I could totally see that happening.
I know. It's so
it would be mind twisting.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I love and hate these powers. For example, the Bahari power that George mentioned before. The power that you can literally use next to the kindergarten and you will magically get all the blood from all the kids inside. It's... No, just no.
just you need to be in a park doing a ritual to suck blood from the area between like a pound, a kindergarten, and I don't know, a school.
I don't know how you could do that ritual but still be in an area of people, and then no one would, I don't know, call the cops or something. I
mean,
I don't know how that works.
Imagine though, role playing a Bahari. Who is kind of like a Robin Hoodie type of a Bahari, and she only does that around some conventions for businessmen, and
Oh, yeah, I can see
the
that.
Wall Street people.
Comic-Con.
Yeah, she goes to Wall Street. She finds this one tree. She brings a corpse there at night, and she does the ritual.
Oof. What was the city where the Bahari are so highly concentrated?
Budapest.
Budapest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Apparently, everyone's suffering from anemia there right now.
Right. Yeah. I can't imagine
Makes
why.
sense.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so many powers, and that's just in this chapter. Is even more later on. It's like,
Yeah, I was okay. I wanted to touch on what the Church of Cain too. When I was reading that, I think it didn't surprise me that there was some sort of schism in the, vampiric Catholic, religion. Didn't surprise me. But the fire walking surprised me. That they are supposed to overcome the Rotschreck to do that was very surprising. And don't know. I don't know. You'd have to really be. That really has to attract zealotry and zealous believers.
That's also really funny that they have that, because that's also like an old tradition of the Sabbat. Like they do that. They have fire jumping parties. So it's like they're so similar, like you were saying outside. Yeah. Just like no, we're not the same. We're not the same. But yeah, I really, for some reason, I find this obsession with fire very interesting.
Especially that ability where you can literally cover your hands in blood, and then they go on fire and you can hack people. It's great.
Oh, wow, I love the imagery of that. Just someone with their arms on fire running around.
Perfect. So yeah, guys,
and
I think
high
we
five
should.
people.
I think we should.
Well, we missed one. The Cult of Mithras.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to be honest, as much as I am very much impressed by the lore of Cult of Mithras, and it is very deep and it goes very long into the history of Kindred, it is a little bit too universal for me to be interesting. Yeah. Because Cult of Mithras is a cult in which everyone can find someone for themselves, really. Because Mithras can represent a lot of the features that, for example, different clan members may find interesting. So for me, it's a little bit too universal to be interesting. It's like just a god, A lot of people are believing in gods for a lot of reasons. So I think, its connection to Ventrue also seems to kind of go with the stereotype of how you should play Ventrue. Yeah. So as someone who is interested in Ventrue recently, I'm kind of like thinking about making a Ventrue character. I'm not really into it. That's just my thing.
That was my least favorite to read about.
Yeah.
Frank.
All right. I actually like both the sons and daughters of Helena and the Menelaeans, because I'm an old fan of Chicago by Night. So it's interesting that you have the Menelaeans, which is an actual cult, but they're kind of collapsing because, surprise, they were ruled through blood bonding. And then you have Helena, which is not at all related to Helena, just using her name. She doesn't care. So it's, I think it's interesting. Like Methuselah worship is probably one of my most favorite aspects of cults in general, because I think it makes sense. Like, this person is extremely powerful and they want us to worship them as well. So they're kind of godlike. I can get in on that. But yet, I really want to know what's happened to Menele. Menele, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know he went off to the Gehenna Wars, but that's all I know about him. Like, and he was this big player in the Chicago politics.
He was most probably snorted by one of the Finnbloods from the Ashfinders.
Are millennials killing Methuselahs? More at 7.
Yeah.
So before we'll go to other chapters of the book, I need to ask you guys this. If you were, because the book actually gives you the opportunity to make your own cult. And there's a whole chapter on cult making and cult crafting. Yeah. So if you guys were to craft your own cult in the World of Darkness, do you have an idea what that cult would be?
Oh, yeah.
Primogen, go.
Yeah, I'm so I think I mentioned this last time. I'm really fond of like implementing recent additions to our culture as humans into vampires, and I really like having vampire influencers. Like Hope, for example, in Coteries by Night is a great character, and I would just love to have because apparently there's this really dark side of YouTube where people are doing blood magic. Like I read about that not too long ago, people dripping blood on paper and stuff.
What? Really?
That's huge, and it's underground. Nobody knows who's doing it. It's like it's supposed to be some kind of weird magic thing, like it's super disorganized. And this is ripe for having like this generation 13 or 14 vampire sitting at their computer like, hey, I'm making my own cult. And
it gives me Minecraft videos. I run YouTube Blood Magic and I only see Minecraft.
Yeah. Oh, in Minecraft, there would be a vampire playing Minecraft. Like, I'm going to recreate the Temple of Mithras. I think YouTube and Instagram, stuff like that, has a really huge impact on our culture today. So if I were to design a cult, it would definitely be like some kind of influencer, live streamer, Jenna Marbles, that kind of character, but as a vampire, building this cult of worship around them.
Would you agree that the biggest influencers out there, the Instagram chicks, or some big YouTubers, can actually be considered cult leaders?
Yes.
I would say so. Yeah. I think the vast majority of their fans are probably not on a cult level, but there's always going to be this small, very, very, very loyal group of fans.
Then you have these YouTubers, for example, who are often, attacking other YouTubers, and you have this huge swarm of followers swarming their social media immediately.
It's scary. It's scary.
Huge rate.
The us versus them kind of.
That's kind of like cult, actually. If you think about it.
It is cool and cultish and disturbing, but I think that so many YouTubers are so genuine, even if they're not actually genuine. Like, they're genuine on camera, they come across as being almost perfect, because they cut away all the mistakes they make in their editing, and they're always presenting this positive side of themselves. So obviously they become a role model, like how sports people became role models in the past. Athletes, thank you. Sports people. Like, they would be role models in the past, but now you have this intimate connection. It's just you in front of your computer watching someone that you look up to. And that's a little bit dangerous. Yeah. You can get very attached to someone you've never met in your real life, and you have no idea who this person is in real life.
Yeah, when I was younger, I would watch a lot of YouTubers and influencers. And for example, when I would watch people play Vampire the Masquerade, I would feel like, oh, wow, I would be such a good friend with that person, because they seem to have the same, reactions as I did to the game. And I was immediately imagining them as this extremely relatable people, which can be a trap. Because after you get through this, YouTube image, then these people may be totally different and may not be as cool in real life as they are. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of the people I used to watch as well, I've found posts about them, like compiling all the weird shit they've done. And I'm like, this really, it hurts me because you can't help but relate to them. It's like they have my interests. They're nice. It's scary, and I think this is a perfect breeding ground for a vampire cult. Just saying.
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah. Josh, do you have an idea what your cult would be if you would make one?
Actually working on this right now for an upcoming
your own
campaign. Cult. Yeah, I'm. Have you not subscribed to Strange Adventures yet?
Oh yeah, of course. As soon as I saw you, I did.
Right, exactly. So you're already inducted into the first mystery, but there's an upcoming campaign, and I'm working on a character that I think would be really cool to build a cult with, and it's based on old pagan and neo-pagan beliefs kind of melding into modern day aspects of life, and it's all about sharing stories and teaching people to share their stories, so that the people kind of that would be attracted to join the cult are those that have less of a easily like people that generally have communication problems, like I seem to be having right now, where I'm umming and erring, and then they gradually learn the stories of the cult, and we kind of teach them, and they get like there's a slightly magical aspect to it at higher levels, but like there's sharing stories that control the narrative of what is going on in the city, and the people that hear these stories, you have to craft them in such a way that people are like, oh, did it actually go down in that way, or you kind of obfuscate like the things you don't want people to hear, and
Oh,
It's
you
a
spread
cult of
these rumors.
gossipers, kind of.
Yeah, like a
that's cool.
a gossip, and it's based on a character that I will be playing, who is a massive old school oral storyteller. I'm looking forward to that.
That's really interesting. I immediately started thinking about one of the themes of the old classic Metal Gear Solid 2. I don't know. Have you played it?
I played the first one only.
Because the second game it's about digital truth. It's a lot about like putting in little filters on the internet where slowly the narrative is being altered. Like it's extremely relevant today.
Yeah,
But I like that. Yeah. It was way ahead of its time. But it reminds me of that, like subtle changing of the narrative and like storytelling, and how we have these campfire communities, except there's no fire, there's internet. So that sounds like
I mean, all my cult would need to do now is take out a Facebook ad, but like, with it's going to make it slightly more involved. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing how that ends up working. But yeah.
Harry, what's your cult then?
What's my cult? I haven't really considered what type of cult I would make. Whatever it would be, would probably have a lot of blood bonding in it.
Oh,
whatever it is.
The old school way.
Yeah, pretty much.
So basically, you shouldn't just make a cult. You should just go the way of Karna. Was it Karna in the lore sheets that made this thing when you are having sex with someone?
Karna creeps on you when you're having sex,
Yeah,
really? Karna's like, hey, what you doing?
Yeah, it's so weird.
You get blood bonded to her too. It's so weird.
So not only you are... No, it's kind of weird because you have sex with someone and you get mutually blood bonded by just having sex.
Mime you did?
And then you both get blood bonded to Karna as well, and she gets blood bonded to you.
Sure, I'll have a sexy blood bonded sex cult. Yeah, that'll be.
Yeah, but Karna's weird.
Yeah.
What's the point in having a cult if you can't have a few orgies?
Exactly.
That's true.
What an excellent point.
Well, my cult, it's something I would love to do once. Would be a cult of the La Sombra Antediluvian, who went down in the sea, right? There was this whole story where he actually walked down to the bottom of the ocean and he found something there. No one knows what, but every time he emerged up, he was different. So the cult will be a compilation of the La Sombrish cult of the Abyss with the Call of Cthulhu. So you would basically have this whole wonderful thing where the cultists would literally walk to the bottom of the ocean to sacrifice themselves to the elder god. Some of them would be eaten, but the other ones would emerge more powerful. So that would be the main thing of the cult. I love
that's really cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I always like the Elder God vibes that Sombra put out.
Yeah. So. I mean, one of my favorite Lovecraft stories is the Shadow over Innsmouth. Is that the one where you have the fish people? Yeah.
Yes, Daggins.
Yeah. Even though it's very, very, very racist by the original.
Lovecraft is super racist.
Yeah, Lovecraft is problematic a bit, but then again, I feel a lot of people were back then. So
yeah. But it's a good story if you just take it at face value.
Well, whenever you feel like you don't know what to think about Lovecraft, just think that this poor guy was taking his girlfriends to the dates on the graveyard. And he
had a really overbearing mother too, didn't he?
Yeah,
I think they both. I think both his mom and dad died in a mental institute. Same place. Yeah, he had a really troubled life.
Okay.
And also remember that he, as much as I am a huge fan of his lore, he was not the best writer.
No.
I like all the parts that are like the dark and scary room was dark
and scary.
I think Lovecraft should be honored and remembered for the fact that he created his mythos so that other people could make better.
Yeah. Everyone else is doing.
Wow, look at us dunking on this guy who's been dead for 100 years. But something I wanted to bring up about this whole cult creation chapter, because I guess we're on that chapter, just mentioning it. There are some examples close to the end of it that I really like basic cult descriptions. A teenage cult. They talk a big game about sacrificing animals to Satan, but honestly, they love their cats too much. Their leader is very disappointed. such a great description.
What part's that in?
I don't think I read any examples.
It's in chapter 5, Cult Construction, and it's right after all the long list of like names. because they have
Yes.
like a Ravana cult. Its members practice strange use, suppresses, and obfuscate, like really serious ones. And then they have a cult of vampire Creason based on the writings of Dr. Netshirk. Well, I guess that one's a UFO cult that believes the antediluvians were beings from another planet
Yeah,
or
I
a higher
saw that
dimension.
I love
just
this
so
one.
weird.
A cult of former sun worshippers who miss dearly the light they once loved so much. They work to recreate their precious sun-soaked days with the white linen outfits, bright lights, and sandals.
Walking around in sandals. I love it. I would join that cult. That's
I
a
would
cult I would join.
too.
Isn't a vampire without socks a masquerade violation?
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Surely.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
I personally belong to the school of wearing tasteful socks and sandals, so don't judge me.
Oh, that's cool. A wild, hedonistic mystery cult of blood dolls and ghouls who dance themselves into unconsciousness so
Yeah.
their regnants can feed on them.
There are some really good ideas in there. Just like one sentence cults that you can just throw into your game.
I like the Tremere ones who are just like thaumaturgy is a real person.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
have feelings.
Yeah. Oh man, they must feel really bad about V5 then, considering how nerfed thaumaturgy got.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
like,
that's
"Oh,
true.
you
Yeah.
got all your different parts cut
Yeah.
off.
Oh. Yeah,
Anyway,
but
guys.
it was overpowered. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think we should move forward to one of the, I think, also very interesting parts of the book, the mortal cults, and talk
Oh,
a bit
yeah.
about them. So I think I can start with saying that I absolutely love the parts about the superhero cult around this one vampire.
Yes.
How was it called again? Let me just.
Leah something, right?
Yeah, Leah Circle. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So basically, what this cult is, guys, for those of you who haven't read the book, is that Leah is a vampire. She was embraced, but she wasn't really. The typical case of sire left her very early and
Yeah.
didn't tell her anything. So she had to realize herself that she is a vampire. She needs to drink blood. She, cannot go out in the sun, etc., etc. She doesn't know anything about clans, sects, the world of darkness. All of the knowledge in the book is absolutely alien to her. So what Leah is doing is she's telling her best friends in high school or college or whatever, I'm not really sure
Yeah.
how old she is, about the fact that she is a vampire. She's also this goth girl. It's a typical teenage superhero drama. And she's telling her friends that she is a vampire and maybe we can do something with it. We can do some good. We can actually capture criminals or something. And she started to experiment by giving her blood to her friends, not knowing that it causes the blood bonds, but what it caused is basically this cult around her. She's not aware of the fact that the reason why every one of her friends is agreeing with her so much is because they're blood bound to her. And she is targeting the criminals and bad people and getting rid of them. And her wonderful followers are helping her in hiding the corpses. So what I love about Leah's Circle, and I think something that is not mentioned in the book itself, is how great it would be to use it as a storytelling perspective for new players who have never played Vampire the
Oh, yeah.
Masquerade
Yeah, I agree.
and
Yes,
who are not
yeah.
who haven't read any of the books. And you basically introduce them by this, your friend Leah
Yeah,
is telling
yeah.
that she's a vampire. And yeah, you're doing all these things around the subject and you are learning about the world of darkness through the eyes of Leah and her followers. That'd be so
Yeah.
cool.
The mortal cults in general, it's just this whole chapter is so inspiring for just you can set a whole chronicle
Yeah.
based on these. They're very unique and interesting. And the Leah one is really cool. My personal favorite is either the Church of Means or the Dread Cult of Elegos.
Yeah.
Is someone going to talk about either of those? Because otherwise, I'm gonna talk about the Church of the Dread Cult of Elegos. Which
Go
is,
for it.
It is such an interesting cult because it was started as an experiment at the Second Inquisition
Yeah.
to see how well they could, like, without any kind of empiric influence, they're just hinting at this old vampire called Elegos, who was like, he was part of all the big events in history. He helped Vlad III in his war against the Turks and like all these things, but he doesn't exist. But they're recruiting young men between 18 to 25, I believe. Like, I guess they would be like incels or stuff like that. People who are very frustrated and angry and looking for a purpose in their life. They're being recruited to join this cult, and it's extremely effective. And some of the agents who worked in it's like, this is highly immoral. We should not be doing this. And the higher ups are like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Let's just see how far we can take it. And they've been sending people doing these meaningless tasks, like deliver this parcel from one end of the town to another. It has no reason to do that, but they do it anyway. And eventually they actually start sending people on real missions, like killing ghouls or stuff like that. Like they have a lot of like kill this person or attack this person, but they do it in a very contained environment. So to prevent as much mortal loss as possible. But now they're actually using them against vampires. And it's gotten to the point that the person who invented the idea, I think her name is Amy Montague, she's loving it. Like she thinks she's this vampire called Jezebeth.
Yes.
She loves it. Like she can't stop doing it. And she's worried that the higher ups. Right? She dresses up and she loves the whole thing. And then you have Jaden Michaels, who's the psychologist who's in charge of it. And he's like, he was the one who said this might be a bad thing. And they just kind of promoted him to a desk job. Like, we don't need you anymore. It's fine. And also they've gotten emails from an unknown sender saying, mentioning the masquerade, like you should not be doing this. So they think they might have actually fooled the local Camarilla into thinking that this Eligos is actually a real vampire.
Yeah, Camarilla tries to find this mysterious Eligos because he's apparently so powerful. Like, is he a Methuselah? Is he an elder?
Yeah, exactly. He's so powerful that he doesn't even have to care about the masquerade. They're worried that he's going to expose them.
Yeah.
And they're worried because they're getting bounce back emails from Eligos at shreknet.vtm or whatever.
It's Eligos. And it's just such a beautiful idea. And you could base the whole chronicle around this. It's definitely one of my favorites. I like the Church of Means as well, but that's the one I'm gonna talk about, sell for the rest of you.
So Harry and Josh, do you have your favorite mortal coil that we haven't covered?
That we haven't covered? No, I did sort of like the Order of the Broken Branch. Thank you. The Student Hunters, I think they were.
Yeah.
That was interesting, but Leah's Circle is my favorite, followed very closely by the Dread Circle of others.
Josh, do you want to add something on the human cults?
This is a section I didn't read as much, unfortunately, but I kind of skimmed it, and I do like the Church of Means, and just like being rich is a superpower. It's proper cool. Yeah. So I guess be rich.
I love basing a kindred cult around a pyramid scheme, basically. And instead of essential oils, you just have this, kindred on the very top of it, who's like, give us your $10 and we're going to make it into $100 in a week. If we're not going to do that, then you're going to get all your money back. So it is a very simple way of getting people in. And I like the no bullshit type of PR they have in the leaflets too. Like, it's just basically, we are here all to get richer, and you want to get richer as well. So just give us money, and we're going to make it bigger. If we're not, we're going to give you back your money. All of this Wolf of Wall Street stuff, which I absolutely love.
It's beautiful.
It's great.
And I love that the reason it was created is because you have this. That's actually something I want to ask Matthew if I ever get the chance, because the founder of this cult is only generation 11, because it was founded basically by a really young vampire. He's like 50 years old, but his sire was really old and powerful, and then the sire went off for the Gehenna Wars, leaving this vampire with all the resources. So he's potent enough that people notice him, but he's weak enough that they might try to take him out. So that's why the Cult of Means was started, or the Church of Means, for him to build up a capital and enough followers that he's not going to be messed with, which I think is just a brilliant thing. Like, it reminds me a bit about Rafael de Corazon, who was, one of the founders of the Camarilla. Like, he's the child of, I don't remember her name, the Prince of San Jose or when something. Anyway, he was really young, but from a very a high generation. So everyone just messed with him because he was, he couldn't do anything back, but he was high enough generation that they couldn't off him. And I think it makes perfect sense. Like, oh shit, I'm surrounded by bigger sharks. What do I do to survive now?
It's pretty cool. I love actually how the chat is saying that Church of Memes should be a thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Church, yeah.
and that it's basically Clantremere. I agree. Church of Memes is basically Clantremere.
Sure, Elder.
Okay, boomer.
Okay, Elder.
What was it? Indeed, Elder. That's the
Elder.
vampire equivalent of it.
We haven't covered the House of Antros, which I think is also like an interesting idea for
that
mortal
one is so
cult.
creepy, though.
It is creepy, but in general, I think it's a very good layout for possible vampire cults that you can make out of the existing cults, actually. Like, imagine Jonestown or whatever stuff like that. You have this vampire who has some kind of a beautiful idea about the world, or two vampires in this particular example. Love is great. The only thing that matters in the world is love. And we are going to teach you the meaning of true love. And they are. And they are just basically love bombing these poor mortals and giving them all the sense of belonging, the sense of finally having a reason to live. And in the very end, it's just a way for them to take blood and to have their own beautiful herd around themselves, which is also very well playing with the predator type, Osiris, right?
The Osiris,
Yeah, the Osiris, which is the predator type which takes from worshippers. But this worshipper thing can be interpreted in many things. You can be an influencer and you can feed from your followers. You can be a very reputable person in some kind of a field, and people look at you like you are a very big authority. You're like a god for them. Or you can also treat it in a very explicit way, that you are a god, or you are a person who is a messiah, and you have the message that you're going to teach those people, but for the exchange of blood, of course. So that's a good way to get blood, it's a good way to survive.
But I think it's just so close to all those really weird, drink the purple Kool-Aid cults from the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It is. I found it. That was my Chicago.
Don't die.
Yeah. I think it's just too real. And it really unnerved me reading about their cults.
It's like L. Ron Hubbard says, you don't get rich being a sci-fi author, you get rich by being a cult.
Yeah,
that's in the book.
I think that's probably why I thought of it. Yeah,
it's terrifying.
I loved reading that.
Some of the quotes in this is just really disturbing. Like the first quote of the mortal cults is like, as a boy, you burned ants with a magnifying glass and stomped on snails, yes? This is how you should now think of the kind. They are pests, curiosities, and distractions. Like, that's
mean.
Yeah, that's mean. That's very disturbing. There's a lot of great quotes in this.
That's true.
Already.
Okay, guys. So as we have about half an hour to go, I think it's a perfect time to move to the meat of the subject.
The cult of death.
Yes, the clan of death, the clan Hekata.
Oh my god.
The new introduction new introduction. It's not really a new introduction to the World of Darkness, but to the V5 system. We finally have the opportunity to play necromancers with the clan Hekata. So, Josh, you did a wonderful video on clan Hekata. Maybe you can tell people what Hekata are in general.
Well, they are a clan in a weird sense and a very exciting kind of make your own decision sense, where the old clans, the Lamia, the Samdi, the Cappadocians, the Giovanni, all of these necromancer clans have grouped together because of a whole swathe of difficulties. Trying to continue to be independent from the Camarilla or the Anarchs or the Sabbat is difficult in modern law because there are so many threats. And especially as the Giovanni promised the Camarilla they wouldn't mess with their stuff, and the Camarilla wouldn't mess with them. That promise is coming to an end now. Yeah. There's also the fact that Augustus Giovanni had lots of ghosts and undead things under his control and captured. Now that he's dead, they're all out there doing horrible things to necromancers that despite all of this animosity between various clans trying to murder each other, they've all come together to become one big happy family.
Yeah, clearly, obviously.
Emphasis on happy.
That's the fun thing is they're like, if we don't do this, we will die. All the elders are off or dead or somewhere. We're in big trouble, so we've got to stay together. But also remember that we hate these people. And if you want to do something against them, we're not going to stop you. But there was one wonderful section of the book that was like, the Hekata are a pretty open about having tried to heal these wounds. But if there's one specific person that you really hate and want to get rid of, that's cool. But as long as you do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which,
it's great. And as long as you're not, everyone loves each other as long as you're not fucking putanesca.
Right, exactly. There's it's a huge swathe of new law and rules and information. And I kind of want everyone's take on the cult itself, because it's kind of formed around several different tenets of trying to become this family and building a new clan, and that's somehow affected the blood. And also the Capuchin is there, which is a character, right? There's so many mysteries.
He is so weird.
Understand.
Yeah, he's so weird.
But yeah, like, what's everyone's take on this new cult/clan?
Hadi, maybe you want to start.
I don't have a take. This is probably where I ran out of time. So I really skimmed this part. So I don't have a take. I do like that the Samedi, I don't know. I don't know how you say it. How do you say that?
Samedi. I'm not
Samedi,
really
because
sure.
it's
Samedi.
Yeah. Okay. That they're not super raughty flesh guys anymore, right? That's
they don't have to be. They can be, but
and then the Nagaraja.
Yeah.
To pronounce it.
Yeah. The Nagaraja.
They don't have to eat flesh anymore.
Yeah.
But they can.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your guys explain that to me.
So basically, I love it, and there are some parts of it that I dislike. But in general, what I really like about this is that it does give you a lot of abilities to craft your own characters within the clans.
Yeah.
It is not fully explained, of course, why suddenly the curse of Clan Hecata is the same for all of these, different bloodlines, which were completely different back in the days, had different curses.
Yeah.
And somehow Giovanni's curse won the whole thing, right? The Lamia's kiss.
Yeah. It's not even the original one either. Like, there was a different curse for the... Sorry.
The painful bite, though, it was Giovanni's, right?
Yeah,
it was.
But before, with the Cappadocians, I think they had a different curse, right?
Cappadocians basically had this deathly parallel to them, right?
Yeah,
they
yeah.
smelled and looked like death.
Right? Yeah.
So Giovanni's one, which I think is very fitting, because if all of them would be just like Nosferatu, just would smell of death, then it would be a little bit the same as Nosferatu, but also worse, because Nosferatu can right now pass in the mortal society because they're just very ugly. And if you smell of death, I guess you wouldn't really pass as a repulsive person. That's different. So Painful Bite does give you a lot of more opportunities to roleplay within the human society, and also gives you the opportunity to have the new predator types, which the book is introducing, like the extortionist, right?
Yeah.
So you coerce people to bloodlet, to let the blood out, and you drink this way, which is very weird and interesting too. But when it comes to the bloodlines themselves, I feel like it's wonderful that we get this chance to have so many of them, and finally, be able to play Cappadocians or Harbingers nowadays, or Harbingers of schools, which are also brought under the Harbingers, Samedi, Nagaraja, Lamia. It's wonderful. But one thing I don't like about it is how many of them, when it comes to the lore sheets and the powers that you can unlock with the lore sheets, are so much focused on inner war within the clan Hecata. So most of the dots for Nagaraja, I think, is just, who they hated again? Not Giovanni Cappadocians, no.
Yeah.
Or just clan Hecata. I need to check it out. But yeah, basically, most of the dots for Nagaraja are around the murder part. So basically, you are either solving murders, or you have additional dots, additional dices for planning the murder, or against other clans. In general, most of these Harbingers as well, I think, they also have this hatred against all the other Hecata members. So a lot of these dots are just basically focused on the inner Hecata conflict, which is something that I don't think is going to be very universal for most of the campaigns, because you're not going to have as many Hecata characters. If you have a Cults of the Bloodgods campaign, which is like a part of the book, which is focused on Hecata, then sure, it's going to work. But in most campaigns, you just want to play Hecata alongside Brujah, Toreadors, and others. Yeah. So these dots are going to be useless. And I think that's the biggest missed opportunity here that I see. All the rest I like. I like the fact that Nagaraja don't have to eat flesh, but can. I like the fact that somebody don't have to look like Death. I like the fact that Giovanni don't have to be incestual maniacs. It's just things that make them all more universal. But yeah, this one thing about the inner conflict dots, it's what I don't like.
Something I did skim through is I love how customizable everything is.
Yeah.
Can interchange things. That's really appealed to me. But you are absolutely correct. If you're playing outside of a Cult of the Blood Gods game, that doesn't leave a whole lot of extra opportunity for your Hecata character. That is something I didn't consider.
On the other hand, a lot of lore sheets are not very universal too. Like
very specific ones.
Yeah. For example, let's take one of the ones that I have to fight the most in my campaign on Discord. Everyone wants to be Janet's favorite. Every single person wants to have Janet Vorman in their sheets, and it's like there's no Janet in this campaign. So why are you spending dots on that?
Yeah, it's like having the what's the site? The black side of Chicago by Night. There's like a lore sheet for that one.
24.
Yeah. If you don't have any Second Inquisition in your game, that's also going to be more or less useless. I guess if you create a campaign, you can always take the lore sheets and be like, okay, I'm gonna put this in my game. Like I think lore sheets being discussed with the storyteller is super important. Because if you don't, then you're literally putting points in something that's never going to be relevant.
So I think like all of the V5 so far, with the inclusion of lore sheets, puts a very big emphasis on talking to the storyteller and having all these grounds before the campaign. So I guess it's kind of spoilery sometimes to tell the players what the campaign is going to convey fully. Yeah. But I think it's important to have the session 0 during which you create your characters and during which you can actually talk about the possible lore sheets. Because if I am not going to talk to my storyteller before doing the campaign and I have to make my character on my own, I wouldn't buy any lore sheets at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally none.
No, it's a gamble for sure. Like and like you said, it puts a strain on the storyteller if you don't have the session 0. Because then, if I have a player coming in with a lore sheet that they want to use, I'll be like, okay, I'll try to work that into the campaign somewhat because I don't want them to waste their points.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. But I think, like you said, session 0s are super important. They're always important. And like the campaign that I'm going to be storytelling, the mini chronicle, I sent out the consent sheet like to all the players, be like, okay, what are you okay with having in the game? Talked a little bit like Josh, your character has I'm not going to spoil, but you have one of the
I have a lore sheet.
Yeah, you have a lore sheet
to an elder.
An elder, exactly, and that's definitely going to pop up because we made our characters before I started writing the game. Thankfully, making a chronicle that's only going to be 3 episodes long gives me a lot of power to make it very like
big decisions.
Big decisions. So that might be a thing that I'm going to start doing. But I'm going to talk about Hecata. Sorry. I really, really like the changes they've made. Giovanni was never a very interesting clan to me.
Come on.
I never liked them a lot. I felt like they were always a little bit weird to get into the campaign. I felt like even back then, it was probably easier to make a Giovanni only chronicle rather than try to work them into the game because they're not Camarilla and they always have the family's interests at hand. It's difficult to work that into a campaign.
So you say you don't like to mingle with your cousin?
I'm not super into that. I know, for shame.
Someone had to find their own date to prom.
Actually, I wanna talk about one thing. Book has this quote that kind of made me, I'm not sure what to think about it, because there's a quote saying that Giovanni is the only clan in which motherfucker is an insult. And I have to say that for a person who has no idea about Vampire the Masquerade, and 5th edition is their first edition, which is going to be a thing, because a lot of people are going into Vampire the Masquerade starting from this book. Yeah. And Cult of the Blood Gods is a supplement that they're getting, and they're going to get to that page, read that quote, with no explanation whatsoever in the whole book.
It doesn't come up again.
Never.
That was my question. They don't talk about the Giovanni incestuous.
No,
History?
never,
Very little,
never.
very little. Like
Oh.
it's
Like-
hinted at. It's hinted at, but if you don't know about
if
it,
you don't know, then
you're gonna
Oh.
have to go with like, oh,
Figure it
so
out.
it's like the old stereotype of
So what is this
Italian
quote
mobsters?
about? Like, I'm just imagining people who are just opening the book
Yeah.
on this quote and like, what is going on?
Yeah,
I'm sure people will figure it out. But,
Yeah.
But it's
without prior
I
knowledge.
feel like this book, more than the other books that have been released, is very much fills a niche for older vampire
Yeah.
players more than newer ones.
That I agree, absolutely. I think it's more
Yeah.
aimed for the older players too.
Yeah, because this is for when you're done with being, the personal horror of losing your humanity. This adds another layer of complexity to Vampire Society.
Hmm.
I think for new players, it might be a little bit overwhelming to also get into this stuff. On the other hand, if you do a complete Hecata chronicle, this book is crucial for it.
Yeah, I mean, the book has a lot of ideas which are perfect for the new players. Like, for example, Leah's Circle. It's great.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I think in general, I love it myself as an older player, I guess, of Vampire the Masquerade, knowing the previous editions. But it is a big pat on the head for all the older players. See, you have this book finally, which is catering to your needs.
Yeah,
And-
exactly. We are making new contents. We're just not remaking older content.
Yeah. So I feel that it is the book which is aimed for those players who are kind of maybe complaining at other books, saying that this is all new. I want something that reminds me of the old good times. So yeah, that's the big pat on the back to us older gamers.
I just want to correct something I just said, because they're not just remaking old content.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I found every book right now published to be pretty interesting to read. The Chicago by Night book is extremely well written. But yeah, I agree that it's definitely catering to people who want to delve deeper into a Vampire Society.
But as we're talking about Chicago by Night, and as we're talking about the criticism towards the books in general, one of the criticism against the Cults of the Blood Gods is the fact that the inclusion of Hecata Clan and the Discipline Oblivion and the ceremonies and all the cool stuff that they're having is making La Sombra less interesting. How do you guys think about it?
Out of a system perspective, you mean, like for meta playing?
Because the interesting parts, the most exclusive part of being a La Sombra was the Discipline Oblivion, and now it gets shared with the Clan Hecata, who, of course, I feel like we shouldn't interpret it as La Sombra cannot use these rituals, because I think they should be also able to use all the Oblivion stuff that Hecata gets.
Yeah.
But
It's one of
It-
those things where they've given two different things the same name, and I think probably they've got this idea of combining the Abyss with the Shadowlands, like where ghosts are, but also where like shadow demons are and stuff like that, which is a very cool idea, and you can have it in your campaign if you want. But then there's no necessary rules in there that say the Hecata can't have La Sombra powers and La Sombra can't have Hecata powers, which honestly, I think if you want to play as a La Sombra, you will pick the things that come in Chicago by Night. And if you want to play a Hecata and do the necromancy stuff, you will pick the powers in Cults of the Blood Gods.
I have to actually disagree with one thing, though. With the Shadowlands and the Abyss, I think they are very different things still. Although they are both part of Oblivion, then you have different abilities that are leading you either to the Abyss or to the Shadowlands. Because they do have the ritual.
There's this connection between them, though, right?
Yeah, but the Pit of Contemplation is not sending you to the Shadowlands. And then there's this ritual that sends you to the Shadowlands, per se.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They're like technically different places.
Yeah.
I think the Abyss was more clearly something completely unexplainable in the old editions, and now it's kind of muddled the water a little bit. Like, could be related, could not be related. It's not entirely sure.
I think Abyss is more like a Shadowlands is a physical place, kind of.
Yeah.
In another dimension, of course, but the place in which you have necropolis, the cities, right? You have living entities inside there, while Abyss is more of a dimension that you draw the power from when you're a La Sombra. So I guess it's not a physical place, right?
I think that they ultimately settle on the Abyss being hell, where the angels who fell in Demon the Fallen were being kept. I think that's what the Abyss was in the older editions. I'm not entirely sure, but I know because the Maelstrom, the sixth Maelstrom. Now I'm really on deep water because this is just stuff I've read like on the side. The sixth Maelstrom that was happening because of Augustus Giovanni, I think, is
it was happening because of the Week of Nightmares.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, the Week of Nightmare. Exactly. That's what released the demons from Demon the Fallen to come into our world. And because it had such an impact on, and I guess the Abyss is also like Deep Umbra, a part of that. If you go werewolf,
there's a lot of lore in there that is interconnecting. I think Changeling also mentions it somehow.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But I think like from a system perspective, I think it can be a little bit muddled. But from a pure game perspective, something I would have wanted more in Chicago by Night is more talk about the Sabbat leaving, the Lasombra leaving the Sabbat. Like given more information to the players about that.
I think we're going to get that in the Sabbat book eventually.
I hope so.
Yeah,
because that would have helped that would have made it easier to make a Lasombra character. I believe I feel because like Huddy is playing a Lasombra in the upcoming game, and we had the option of either Huddy being part of this new deal with the Camarilla, being an old enough Lasombra for that, being Antitribu, which would have been very complicated, or being someone so young that they were embraced after the shift to the Camarilla. And all three options are very difficult because there's not enough information about this in the Chicago by Night book, in my opinion.
That's interesting though, because I feel like we need to get that Sabbat book eventually, and I'm so wondering how they're going to deal with the idea of Sabbat. Judging from the previous, all the books of V5 I've read, they're trying to make everything more universal. They're trying to make clans more universal. They're trying to add a lot of more archetypes which expand our ideas or old stereotypes of the clans that we had engraved in our heads. Same with Nagaraja right now, or, Giovanni. And I wonder what they're going to do with Sabbat. How they're going to make Sabbat more universal. How they're going to make it, catering to more audience and possible to play various different vampires within the Sabbat. I wonder how they're going to do it. Especially as Sabbat was so far portrayed to be the ultimate boogeyman. And a very stupid boogeyman too of V5. They are the ones that got wiped by the Second Inquisition because they were so reckless and so stupid. So they are basically portrayed as shovelheads by the whole V5 so far. So what I'm thinking is the Sabbat is going to rise from the ashes and it's going to rise smarter. But how smarter they're going to be, in what kind of a way, what they're going to do, what's going to be their difference in between them and Anarchs or Camarilla.
If I had to guess, which is probably wrong, we don't, we hear about the Lasombra leaving and stuff. We don't hear anything about the Simichi, what they're doing. Maybe they take over the reins of the Sabbat from, Lasombra's the sort of the administrative people. Maybe they do.
There is a part in Beckett's Jihad Diary which is really interesting because the Tsimishi or Tsimitsi clan founder.
I say it wrong. Don't worry about
it. I'm trying to say Tsimish now because apparently that's how you're supposed to. I don't know.
I always call him Tsimitsi.
Same.
So do I.
Tsimitsi.
Tsimitsi. I'll change it back. I know their clan founder is all over the place. Like part of him is in the Big White Worm. Tremere spoiler. Part of him is
underneath New York and
a small part of him is in literally everyone who is in the clan who has vicissitude.
He's in all of us.
He's in all of us.
And part of him is also in every single Sabbat vampire because the flower of Kupala that was used in Valdery is actually a part of the Tsimitsi antediluvian, according to some of the old lore.
Okay.
So he's all over the place.
Poor guy. He's like Santa.
I think that antediluvian is going to play a crucial role in the new Sabbat. I hope so anyway, because that would be cool.
I hope so too.
Yeah. I'm thinking that maybe once, because we have this shift of the clans where a lot of clans which were considered Camarilla only are shifting to Anarchs. So, for example, we have Anarch Ventru now, or we have Anarch Malkavians, which is, I think, the biggest deal. Because Malkavians were originally always only Camarilla or Sabbat, nothing in between.
Exactly.
And then also you have Gangrels and Bruja who completely went away from the Camarilla. So I'm thinking maybe now that La Sombra rejoined Camarilla, they left a lot of spots in there. They left a lot of seats in the Sabbat. So what if Ventrue took over Sabbat in the big bars?
That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Swapsies.
Yeah.
Swapsies.
But it's interesting, yeah, because the La Sombra, like I made a couple of videos about them recently, they are literally the linchpin keeping the Sabbat together, because the Tzimisce can't do that. They're too focused on their own Ajia Dahaka and, their own thing. So without the La Sombra, there's going to be a lot of...
I could really see Ventrue in Camarilla, in Anarch, and in Sabbat. I could just see them, because it sounds like a Ventrue thing, where they would just spread that around.
Yeah.
Power wherever they can get it.
What if the followers of Urshulgi, the Banu Hakim, Methuselah, took over this? Because the anti-tribu Banu Hakim or Assamites were in the Sabbat
but
originally.
They left when Urshulgi came.
And maybe they're going to take over. Like, who knows?
I don't know.
There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different things.
We need the book.
We need the book.
We need the book.
Give us the book. Give us the book.
We got a question in the chat about how all the other factions are considering the Hekata now with their necromancy. And there's a specific part about that in the book that I just wanted to bring up. Everyone thinks that the Giovanni and the Hekata are just collapsing on itself. Still, because of the internal conflicts, and that's their major advantage right now. Everyone thinks they're actually losing, but they are stronger than they've ever been.
I think there's this very good balance in the book inside the clan Hekata, because of course there's going to be the internal war, and as much it's a cold war right now when they are actually not openly fighting against each other. They're all sitting at one table, but they are spreading bad rumors about everyone else, and it's basically like a very bad Christmas dinner where you hate everyone, but you have to spend time there. So it's kind of like that. So this is, of course, a big problem for Clan Hekata and something that makes them weaker. But what makes them stronger is the absolute OP fact that they are not subjected to the beckoning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Big law news. They killed all their elders, and that's maybe why.
Yeah.
Could be.
There's a lot of nice questions that you can answer for your own campaign in this, but
Cult idea, the cult of killing all the Methuselahs just to make sure that your clan doesn't subject for the beckoning.
Wasn't that in the Anarch book? It's like eat the elders, eat the rich,
eat the rich.
Yeah,
I love it. There's so much stuff about the Hekata too, like the family reunion that they're talking about when all the young members of the clans were like, wait a minute, this whole fight that we've got going, it's because of those people.
That's not us, that's them.
Yeah, and they don't give a shit about us. So let's be friends.
I like the fact how Hekata is showing how, although the biggest power per se, the blood potency, the discipline power lies in the elders, how you can actually turn this away with having all these youngsters who are rebelling against the elders, and how they can actually get power, although maybe they are not as potent, they have not as many freaking insane powers, they can still take over the whole clan. It's pretty funny.
Have you guys seen the meme where a guy is standing in the kitchen with a coffee cup? It's like, hey man, what's going on? And there's like the kid going, youth rebellion. And the guy goes, yeah, stick it to the man. It's like I need to remake that meme because the Cappadocians, like the really old Cappadocians are actually siding with the youth.
Yeah, they just get woken up and it's like, what's going on? And then
we killed everyone. Man.
Okay.
Like there's one part about a really old Cappadocian calling their child's cell phone the devil box or something.
Oh yeah. I really like that, where the old Cappadocians and Harbingers are siring now.
Yeah,
that they can, and they're like really, really obsessively teaching these and like forming young vampires. Like,
I love it.
You are my child, and I will do everything for you. It's so funny.
What's
That's
really
adorable.
Best part is the fact that Serena is still alive. Serena from Redemption.
Yeah, such a good thing.
Yeah, no one knows what she's doing, right? She's in
Jerusalem.
Right? Yeah, doing stuff in
Jerusalem.
She could do a lot there, I feel like.
Eye of Malachi. We haven't talked about those guys.
Oh, I am actually using them in the campaign right now. It's going to be really
creepy.
Fun.
They are so creepy.
They are.
Like there's a chapter about Jerusalem in Beckett's Shahad Diary. you do not want to know what's underneath there.
That's perfect. It's
Yeah.
that's the World of Darkness,
Yeah.
And speaking of Cappadocians themselves, the book actually mentions it very briefly, but it's something to consider for the future. Maybe it's going to be in one of the future releases. That Cappadocians, per se, the classic Cappadocians, are not strictly a part of Hecata, and like they didn't join the family dinner, and they may still consider joining the Camarilla. So in the future, we may actually get the inclusion of Clan Cappadocian in the Camarilla, which would be awesome.
Cool. That would be very cool. Didn't Matthew Dawkins also say that not all Giovanni joined the family dinner, and that they will be available in the player's handbook? I seem to recall reading that somewhere.
Maybe
that like old school Giovanni, like the ones who didn't join the family dinner.
I think that's in this book. There's
okay.
I might be wrong.
No. I think actually no.
So
there is the Giovanni lore sheet, I guess. Yeah, because you choose your disciplines depending on which bloodline you are. So I guess that kind of explains itself. Yeah, I got excited for no reason.
I feel like you can actually still totally role play the old school clans within this new setting. And for example, take the Nagaraja with their original Bane, apply the discipline rules which you have in the V5 core book, and just say that they didn't join the family dinner. They're still there, the classic people from the clans. And maybe it's this magical thing where all the Hecata members joining the family dinner have the common curse right now, but those who didn't still retain those older curses, which could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the compulsion of Clan Hecata?
What was that? I don't
that
remember.
Was obsession with death. You're basically
the morbidity.
Yeah.
The description of it, I think, is possibly slightly disruptive. Where they're like, "I've got to go and solve a murder now."
Yeah.
Which I do like the overall idea of becoming obsessed and with the idea that someone is going to die, starting to predict deaths in awkward situations.
I have a problem with compulsions in general because you can roll bestial failures in any possible occasion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
unless
imagine you're at the freaking table, you're having a little blood cup with people, and suddenly you roll some kind of you try to juggle something and show them how performance or whatever, and your compulsion triggers. How the hell do you roleplay a Hecata compulsion in that environment? You suddenly think about death of everyone around?
It can be difficult. A lot of the time, unless it's important going to things going on at the moment, sometimes I just ignore.
I was going to say that for if you're in a group that roll dice less, like my group culture or whatever you want to call that, we only really roll when it's something it could be relevant to the plot if it fails and if it succeeds. If it's supposed to succeed, we'll just hash it out.
Okay.
And in that way, the compulsions can be used as an interesting, for it to happen. But I find that they can be extremely disruptive to a whole scene.
Yeah.
If they happen, because the players are like, how much am I supposed to be paranoid, or how much am I supposed to be obsessed with some people dying around me? It's difficult to role play.
Yeah, I would say that with the compulsions, cult compulsions in general, I am not really into the whole idea of them triggering only when you score the bestial failure, and that's the very strict rule.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think a lot of these compulsions, for example, Ventrue, right? They feel this they're inclined to rule over other people. And they would be inclined to do so, maybe not forced to be like that, but they would be trying to take the lead in a lot of the social situations, even, not realizing it fully because that's in their blood. And why exactly when I fail horribly, suddenly I need to assert my dominance, it's sometimes very hard to roleplay.
Yeah.
I've had especially last session in my home game, there were a lot of bestial failures and a lot of messy crits and a lot of frenzies.
Ooh.
And I think I trusted the players enough to make the decision about how much and where their compulsions came into it and for what reasons. But I every time I handled one out, I was like, this is up to you. You don't have to do this, but it kind of, you will be fighting against it. So if you don't want to act into this, then you just take a minus. Like
Yeah.
it's not too bad.
I think that's a very reasonable way to approach it.
Yeah.
Like hardline forcing someone to act in a certain way can, especially since, like you said, how often you can roll bestial failure. It's like a sledgehammer, you know. It can ruin everything if it pops up in the wrong time. And for some storytellers, that could be fun. Like, yeah, let's just roll with it. But if you have this carefully, like a scenario, I was playing the sacrifice for Chicago by Night, the starting adventure with the. I'm not going to spoil it because it's in the book, but it's a very crucial scene at an Elysium, and I think there was just this random roll of etiquette, and one player had a bestial failure and literally went like super paranoid, and we didn't know what to do with it because he started like he was acting on it obviously, but he was, you know, the whole scene kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
because it's so disruptive, and if vampires are falling for this left and right, it's like, holy shit, how are they managing to keep their society together?
I mean, vampires, of course, would be less controlling of their own behaviors than humans would be. I think, like vampires are driven by the beast within them, and Messy Criticals especially are a very interesting way to roleplay this beast. It's just that bestial failures themselves, I feel like it is up to a storyteller to... That's what I like about the bestial failures, that you can actually pick whether it's a clan compulsion or whether it's, you know, aggravated damage or something else, or a different kind of compulsion. So it's up to the storyteller to actually pick a good one for the situation and what would happen. And same with the Messy Criticals. You can score a Messy on the wits and awareness roll, and nothing would happen. Although we actually did a little role-playing session in the SBN yesterday on the Discord, and my character actually had the Messy Critical and on the wits and awareness, and we did roleplay it because he's a Malkavian as a paranoia for a moment because he was just like too much overload of all the stuff. But yeah, it's up to the storyteller to really use that. That's why I like Jason Carl and how he is storytelling, because he's not taking the book as, you know, everything from the book has to be you know, shown in the role playing. He's taking the book as a tool, not as a Bible per se, that where you have to follow every single word, which is pretty good.
Oh, it should be, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel also that blood resonance, extremely difficult to work in organically in a game. He doesn't use them, right?
I've heard him mention resonances a couple of times, but he doesn't really use them.
Well, extremely
especially
hard,
the Hecata and the La Sombra require a void of resonance. I don't fully understand that, but I've not actually played with using those rules. So
isn't it the lack of resonance actually?
There is a chart that I use quite often to decide what resonance a random person
you roll
has.
D10s twice.
I've used that quite a lot, but I haven't managed to include the, I guess, serial killer-esque void of emotion sort of aspect of it, which is, I would say, different from just not feeling particularly emotive at the moment.
I think as a storyteller, I would only allow the rolling in cases like when players totally randomly just find someone on the street and try to drink them. But in general, I would try to include humans that are drinkable in the locations that we are, you know, doing stuff in, which have intense resonances and could possibly end up with a dyscrasia, because I think that's an interesting part. And to actually get a dyscrasia by the book, you have to roll D10 for the possible intensity of the resonance, right? And only when you get the either 10 or 1, then you have to roll again to make sure if that is actually a dyscrasia or not. And it actually gives you such a little chance per vessel to get that dyscrasia. It never really happens in our campaign, at least, where everyone is playing online and just rolling for themselves. It so rarely happens. So when I would be a storyteller for a campaign like that, I would just try to include these very resonant humans more often, just to use that part of the mechanic.
Yeah, it's. I would love to have the kind of chart. It's probably available in the storyteller's screen, but like for me, resonance is such a strange thing to implement. It's difficult for me to implement in the game.
Yeah, I understand that. It's a new thing too. I feel like new books are going to maybe expand the topic a little bit more to make it, again, more universal.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, it was awesome. We actually went through the whole book, I think.
Yeah, I think so. There's one thing we didn't talk too much about.
Yeah.
Coterie types and predator types, if we want to mention those.
Oh, yeah.
But we did.
Oh, there's so many coterie types in the book. I don't really remember. They are very often actually connected with the cults.
Yeah.
So you, for example, have the Nemesis.
That's the only one I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nemesis. You have the Saboteurs from Church of Sets.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Oh,
them.
yeah. I was just thinking because there's one that's about like people who are there to form a cult. Like I was reading that, going, that's what we should have had in our game, the one that's coming on Tuesday. But yeah, I don't think we can cover the whole book. I know someone in chat was asking about predator types. That's why I brought it up.
Prototypes are two new ones. There's Extortionist, of course, and there's the Gravedigger. And the Gravedigger is actually interesting because they do not, I mean, some of them totally dig up the fresh corpses and drink from that, but for that you have to have Iron Gullet, which is a very expensive merit, and not a lot of people pick them at creation. Speaking of which, we need more merits. Absolutely. We don't have enough merits.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like, why are those books not including more merits? Like, I want more merits in every single book that they're doing.
It's a weird balancing act, because when we were doing character creation, we were like, there are too many merits.
Really?
It's too much. There's too much going on for a new player to just read through them easily.
Well, it's because it's all together. It's background merits and flaws.
That's a design decision I don't understand. Merging backgrounds with merits. It's difficult.
I mean, they have a similar effect. I sort of get it, but
the book is very poorly organized for that, in my opinion.
That as well.
That's why,
more merits.
What I'm talking about, whenever I'm talking about V5, I'm telling people that, sure, the book itself, in the paper form, I have it and it's wonderful, but get the PDF so you can use the search function, because it's so important. That's why I almost never, maybe today, I actually used the book for the first time when I was just like sitting with my daughter and reading the Gangrel part for my video. But in general, I always use the PDF so I can just search things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, because I think we did everything, and we covered stuff from the book pretty. I think it was all the chapters kind of, except for the campaign itself, which should be covered by the veil of spoilers. So we're not going to talk about that. So the book is still on Kickstarter, guys. If you want to support it, maybe someone can drop the link in the chat. I would be very grateful, because I don't have the link at hand.
I'll do that.
Thank you. And we're going to meet again, and we're going to talk about more Vampire the Masquerade shenanigans. I would actually love to hear from people what kind of topics Vampire the Masquerade related would you guys like us to talk about? Because there's so many things we can do the episodes about, and I have some ideas, but maybe the chat has more ideas for us.
It's a really good question.
Yeah. I do have some ideas, but I'm going to discuss them with you in private.
Perfect.
And thank you so much, guys, for joining today. And we're going to meet again, hopefully in 2 weeks or 3 or somewhere soon.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Somewhere around there, and do more beckoning. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.